Tuesday morning, 9:15. I bought a grande latte, $5 with tax. And while I was waiting for it, I did this thing where you stare at something normal until it stops being normal. $5 for a paper cup of hot milk and coffee. Where does that money actually go? Not in the vague Starbucks gets it sense. I mean every cent. To which person, in which job, in which country, doing what? So I went and read 300 pages of Starbucks federal filings to find out. And what surprised me wasn't how much Starbucks made, it was how little they actually kept. Last fiscal year, Starbucks Corporation Starbucks made $36.2 billion in revenue. Billion. With a B, that's not profit. That's the total amount customers spent in Starbucks stores around the world last year, mostly $5 and $6 at a time, from people doing exactly what I did Tuesday morning. I know this because Starbucks is a public company. Anyone can buy a share on the New York Stock Exchange, ticker SBUX, and the moment a company sells stock to the public, the federal government requires them to reveal where the money goes. By law. The document is called a 10-K. It's hundreds of pages of accounting, disclosures, and financial statements. Most people never read it because it's exhausting. But buried inside that filing is a table that answers the exact question I was asking. Where does the $5 actually go? For every latte Starbucks sells, the money flows into 5 buckets. The accounting names are boring. So I'll translate. Bucket 1, the physical drink, the beans, the milk, the cup, the lid, the sleeve, and the cost of getting all of it to the store. Bucket 2, the people and the place, the barista, the shift supervisor, the rent, the electricity, the Wi-Fi, everything required to operate the store itself. Bucket 3, equipment wearing out. The espresso machines, the grinders, the refrigerators, the furniture. Accountants call this depreciation. Bucket 4, corporate, headquarters, executives, marketing, lawyers, HR, the people who never touched your coffee. And bucket 5, whatever's left over, profit. That's the whole system. So let's fill the buckets. Bucket 1, the physical drink. Starbucks spent about $11.2 billion last year on product and distribution costs, roughly 31% of revenue. So from my $5 latte, about $1.55 went into this bucket. This pays for the Arabica beans grown in places like Colombia, Ethiopia, and Guatemala. The milk, the cups, the plastic lids, the cardboard sleeves, the warehouses, the trucks, the global supply chain moving everything around the planet. And here's the weird part. Industry estimates suggest the actual coffee beans in a grande latte cost Starbucks somewhere around 4 to 7 cents. The milk costs maybe 20 to 30 cents wholesale. The cup, lid, and sleeve together cost around 15 cents. Most of this bucket isn't the ingredients. It's logistics, shipping, warehousing, distribution, procurement, scale. So when somebody says, I'm supporting coffee farmers by buying Starbucks, technically, yes, but only a tiny fraction of your $5 actually reaches the farm. Bucket 2 is where the money really goes, the people and the place. This was the biggest category by far, $15.3 billion last year, about 42% of all revenue. Out of my $5 latte, around $2.11 went here. This bucket pays for the barista steaming the milk, the shift supervisor managing the rush, the store manager, the health insurance, the cleaning supplies, the credit card fees every time somebody taps their phone, and especially the rent. A busy urban Starbucks location can pay tens of thousands of dollars a month just to exist on the right corner. And that corner matters because convenience is the real product. A grande latte only takes about 90 seconds to make. Average barista compensation in the U.S., including benefits, works out to roughly 45 cents of my drink. The rest of this bucket is the building itself, the utilities, the systems, the infrastructure. That's the first big realization. The expensive part of Starbucks isn't the coffee. It's operating a store in modern cities. Bucket 3, depreciation. About $1.5 billion last year, roughly 4% of revenue. 21 cents of my latte? This is accounting catching up with physics. The espresso machine costs thousands of dollars, but Starbucks doesn't expense it all at once. They spread the cost across the years the machine is expected to last. Same with the grinders, the counters, the furniture, the renovations. Things wear out slowly, and the accounting reflects that. Bucket 4. Corporate, headquarters in Seattle, executives, marketing campaigns, finance teams, lawyers, analysts, technology departments, all the machinery behind the brand. About $2.5 billion last year, roughly 35 to 40 cents of my latte. And because everyone wonders this whenever corporate expenses come up. Yes, the CEO gets paid a lot. When Brian Nichol became CEO in 2024, his compensation package made headlines because it was enormous. But spread across billions of drinks sold globally, his compensation barely changes the price of your latte at all. The CEO is not why your coffee costs $5. The system is. Now the buckets are full. So what's left? Out of my $5 latte, about $1.55 paid for the physical drink and supply chain, about $2.11 paid for the people in the store, about 21 cents paid for equipment wearing out, about 40 cents paid for corporate operations. That leaves roughly 70 cents in operating profit. But Starbucks still has debt payments, taxes, interest expenses, other costs below the operating line. After all of that, the actual net profit on my $5 latte ends up around 50 cents. 50 cents. That's the part left over after everything else is paid. And honestly, that number surprised me. I assumed Starbucks was keeping $1.50, maybe $2. But according to the actual filing, the final net profit is closer to 10%, which, compared to other giant companies, is pretty normal. Apple Inc. Apple operates at much higher margins. Costco Wholesale Corporation. Costco operates at much lower ones. Starbucks sits somewhere in the middle. So is the $5 latte a scam? Not really, because most of what you're paying for isn't the coffee. You're paying for friction removed, the store near your office, the speed, the app remembering your order, the predictable experience, the fact that somebody else made it, handed it to you, and cleaned up afterward. I could make a similar latte at home for maybe $1.50. The extra $3.50 isn't buying better ingredients. It's buying convenience. That's the deal. And once you realize that, modern life starts looking different. Because this logic applies to almost everything. Food delivery, ride-sharing, streaming services, luxury products. You're rarely paying only for the product itself. You're paying for systems that remove time, effort, uncertainty, or inconvenience. Now let me make this personal. If someone buys a $5 latte every weekday for a year, that's about $1,250 annually. Out of that, roughly $387 went to ingredients and supply chains. Roughly $528 went to employees and store operations. About $130 became Starbucks' actual net profit from that customer. $130. That's the true margin of the habit. And here's where this gets interesting. If instead of buying those lattes, you invested that same $1,250 every year into a low-cost S&P 500 index fund, historical average returns suggest it could compound into well over 6 figures across a working lifetime. Now, to be clear, I'm not telling you to stop buying coffee. I buy coffee. That's not the point. The point is understanding the trade. Because once you see where the money actually goes, you stop thinking in vague feelings and start thinking in systems. And systems are easier to evaluate honestly. Sometimes the convenience is absolutely worth it. Sometimes it isn't. But at least now you know what you're really paying for. The coffee was never the expensive part. The expensive part was having the friction removed for you. Next time you buy something ordinary, pause for a second and ask yourself, what am I actually paying for? Because the answer is almost never just